Welcome back to Small Caps, ladies and gentlemen. My name is Kerry Stevenson. I want you guys to sit up and take some notice because for a long, long time, I have been wanting to get Gerald Celente onto the program. Gerald is the publisher of the Trends Journal. Now, this is a weekly report. You can subscribe to it at trendsjournal.com. And what I love about Gerald is he does not hold back. And I tell you guys all the time, please don't listen to mainstream media. Please listen to the people that understand what's truly going on. You can hear a lot from Gerald today, not so much from me, because we want to hear from him what is happening in the world, what are his trends. He has a 40-year track record of identifying, tracking, and forecasting trends. So, Gerald, fantastic to see you. Thank you so much for your time.
Oh, it's my pleasure. Thank you.
Well, let's start off, if we could. What are the latest trends that you're seeing? We are living in a completely, in my opinion and many others, crazy world, a world of digital AI, central bank digital currencies, overreach by government. And I know that that's something that you speak about. What are the trends that you're seeing at the moment?
Oh, there's so many going on. I mean, the major concern that we have now, I always make it clear, I'm not a futurist. Nobody can predict the future because there are too many wild cards, whether they're made by humans or by nature. And the wild cards that have been played just recently in the last few years, the COVID war. Mm-hmm. I mean, you couldn't make this up. A science fiction movie, you couldn't have done better. The first thing people did as they started freaking out, mm-hmm. they ran out and bought toilet paper. I mean, you can't, right? I'm not making this up.
Nope.
Right? It shows you what crapheads they are. The people swallow the crap that's being fed to them. Mm. The damage that's been done by the COVID war is incalculable. It's destroyed the lives and livelihoods of billions of people across the planet. Physically, financially, mentally, mm-hmm. spiritually. They suck the joy out of life. It's a whole new world, a whole new world. I go to a health food store here, I just got back. 60% of the people, 70% wearing masks.
Are you serious?
I'm serious. In New York, and at night it's dead. The streets are dead. I'm up in Kingston, New York. This was the first capital of New York State before the British burnt it down. And Woodstock is 15 minutes away from me. 10:30 at night, Woodstock is dead. There used to be bands playing in every place. 9 o'clock, the roads are dead. The office occupancy rate in New York City officially is 47%. And that number is general around Europe, Australia, and many parts of the world. Remote work is real. People, when they force them to stay home, and they're home day after day, week after week, month after month, people are saying to themselves, holy Christ, I'm getting up 5 o'clock in the morning to go commute to a lousy job. I hate what I'm doing. I'm not going to do that anymore. Okay, you can work at home. Now think of all the businesses that are affected by that lockdown. All the businesses that depended on commuters, gone, finito. Some 30% of the dry cleaners are dried out, finished in New York, in America. To have a thing called happy hour. After you worked, everybody went to the bar, gone, finished. Lunchtime, dead time. The damage that this has done, the murder rates, the suicide rates, the drug overdoses, on and on and on. The damage it's done is incalculable. Oh, but it was great for the bigs because they lowered interest rates to zero and negative interest rate policy. So the mergers and acquisition activity went up 21%. Went up the highest level ever in 2021. So the bigs got bigger. The rich got richer. Oxfam puts out the numbers, not mine, theirs. And we, the people of Slavelandia, got poorer. Yeah. Number two, you can't forecast this, the Ukraine war. And United States, NATO, and its allies ramping up the war to keep it going. The damage that it's done, again, physically, mentally, and spiritually, is incalculable.
Is
We had
there,
a little.
Gerald, sorry to interrupt you, but
No.
I understand that there are changes. Is that damage, are we able to undo it, or are we living in a whole new world?
It's a whole new world. Yes, here's the way I see it. Now, this is as a trend forecaster.
Yep.
If we don't change it, it's going to be hell on earth.
Exactly.
This is our magazine, the Trends Journal, when it used to be a quarterly. 2014. You see how happy that guy is? That's the United States-led coup of Viktor Yanukovych in 2014, the democratically elected president of Ukraine. Yes, democratically elected according to the international observers.
Right.
That the United States overthrew because he made a deal. He was going to make a deal. Ukraine's been busted since the breakup of the Soviet Union. And according to the European Union, the most corrupt country in Europe, he needed money. He was going to make a deal with the IMF and the EU. And Putin said, listen, I got a better deal for you. We'll give you lower interest rates and I'll lower the price of your oil. Okay, we'll go with you. No, you won't. No, you won't. It's all in details. The article, by the way, is written by Dr. Paul Craig Roberts, former Assistant Treasury Secretary under Ronald Reagan. So people have no idea of how these things were going, how they started. All they know is the propaganda that they swallow. And now, of course, the greatest fear is that they're ramping this thing up and selling the reality of a nuclear war.
Mm-hmm. Fear.
And that's what we're concerned about. You see these studies coming out. There was just one from Cyprus. What to do if a nuclear explosion goes off.
Oh my
How
goodness.
about bend over and kiss your butt goodbye? You know, I have an article here by, not an article, the speech by former president who was assassinated, John F. Kennedy.
Mm-hmm.
And it's his speech to the students at American University 5 months before he was killed in June of 1663. Commencement address at June University, Washington, D.C. It's all about peace. Among the many traits the peoples of our two countries have in common, he's speaking about, at that time, the Soviet Union, none is stronger than our mutual abhorrence to war. Almost unique among the major world powers, we have never been at a war with each other. And no nation in the history, you ready? How they're teaching us to hate the Russians. Now, this is Kennedy talking about Russia. And no nation in the history of battle ever suffered more than the Soviet Union suffered in the course of the Second World War. At least 20 million lost lives. Countless millions of homes and farms were burned and sacked. A third of the nation's territory, including 2/3 of its industrial base, was turned into a wasteland, a loss equivalent to the devastation of this country, the United States, east of Chicago. Today, now I'm mentioning this because this is my greatest fear. Today, should total war ever break out again, no matter how, our two countries would become the primary targets. It is an ironic but accurate fact that the two strongest powers are the two in the most danger of devastation. All we have built, all we have worked for would be destroyed in the first 24 hours. Got it?
Are you saying?
And you got these little arrogant boys and little arrogant girls who couldn't fight their way out of a paper bag calling for more war, calling for more war. They're war whores. They're little oh, I'm in America. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. What God you talking about? What nation under God? Oh, America talking about Russia? Hey, you like the Vietnam War? Oh, I remember it very well. I'm 76 years old. Every day, are they going to get me? Are they going to get me? Only killed 3.5 million people, poisoned the place with Agent Orange. Oh, how about the Iraq War? Oh, which one? Daddy Bush's war, the first one, or little Georgie Bush's war? Only killed over 1 million people. Oh, those dirty Russians. How about the Afghan war? Oh, only the longest war in American history. And NATO, you did a great job in destroying Yugoslavia. Wonderful, wonderful time in Libya, destroying the richest nation in Africa, where people had more rights and benefits, not only than most of Africa, but most of the world.
Yep.
And Syria, we got to get that guy Assad out of there. I'm Barack Obama, the Nobel Peace of Crap Prize winner. The Afghan troop surge, too. I'm telling you, of everything else, this is the most important, because if this keeps escalating, nothing else is going to matter. As Kennedy said, 24 hours, life is destroyed on Earth. And that was 1963.
I was just about to say that was 1963, a different time. And I understand what you're saying, Gerald, but also I think nowadays people are aware of, I guess, the escalation that can happen with war. Wars have changed. We've got artificial intelligence with drones and all sorts of things. Also in Russia, we have Putin, who is a very different kettle of fish than, I can't remember who was in power in 1963. I was a young one then. But he likes to control and he likes to do things his way. My question to you is, do you really think it will? I know that I look at it and I think it's almost to create a distraction from what the real truth is.
Well, you've nailed it. Go back to the cover of last week's Trends Journal.
Mm-hmm.
When all else fails, they take you to war.
Yeah.
Go back to what followed the Great Depression, World War II.
World War II, sorry, yeah.
Yeah. Oh, and World War I, all of Europe, the United States, the financial crisis that brought us into World War I. And then you look at the dot-com bust. People forget about that. We forecasted it, by the way, in our Trends Journal in October 1999. We said the dot-com bust would happen by the second quarter of 2000, and it happened in March of 2000. Remember the Y2Ks and all the stuff they were making up that nobody could figure out what it was because there was a lot of baloney. What followed it? Oh, 9/11. Forgot about it like that. Forgot about it like that. And then we're going to go into Afghanistan to get that guy, Osama bin Laden, dead or alive, and 88% of the American people believed it. And then what did they do next? They created the phony housing market with the subprime mortgages.
That's right.
Hey, you don't have a job? You owe money? You're deep in debt? Don't worry about it. Here, sign here. You could buy a house. I'm not making that up.
No, I know.
Oh, and then the derivative scandal. So what I'm saying is, yes, when all else fails, they take you to war. Again, Australia, you want to go back to Gallipoli? Wasn't that wonderful? I mean, this is an ancient history, World War I or World War II. Nations destroyed, countless millions of people are killed. We have demonic, psychotic murderers in charge.
Yeah, and so that it has happened over history, and I love the fact with the Trends Journal, you actually are a man of history, and you look back to say we continually stop, we never learn from history, and we continue. So it will continue, and your latest Trends Journal says the robots are here, but more importantly, will humanity survive? Which I find quite depressing in a way. Are you really down on the fact that we're going into such a unprecedented and potentially catastrophic times? Do you really think it's getting that bad?
Yes, it is. And again, I'm a guy, again, I'm 76 years old. I remember listening to my parents' generation music.
Mm-hmm.
People like Count Basie, Duke Ellington, Louis Armstrong, and then the whole
Fantastic.
rock and roll, all the R&B, and then rock and roll, and then Motown. And now we're going to synthesize everything. And then began the disco thing. And then it became more and more synthesized. Now it's one bad rap. I
Yeah.
have a photograph of my parents' wedding, 1934. May they all rest in peace. They worked in factories. My father worked in the fish store. You look at these people, Italian immigrants,
Mm-hmm.
the way they're dressed, the elegance,
Mm.
the style,
Mm.
gone. Now it's a pig show.
I agree.
It's a slob show.
Mhm.
Hey, isn't it wonderful to see women wearing overalls? Man, it really turns me on. It gets me really hot, What are you doing?
Well,
Hey, I remember mini skirts now. Bring that back. The whole thing has gone down. The King James Bible got it wrong. They say the meek shall inherit the earth. They misspelt it. The geeks have inherited the earth. Yeah, from shitty T-shirts to jeans. Welcome to the world.
yeah, we have no style and no substance anymore.
Yeah. And again, it's taking over. And this new chat, GPT, it's real. It's real. You tell them, I want to write a story about what's going on in Ukraine. Bup, 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 bup. In 15 seconds, there it is.
That to me, Gerald, that's actually quite extraordinarily dangerous, in my opinion. Here in Australia,
It is.
The children at school are saying, why should I bother to have to read, research, write, or do anything else? I'll just put it into chat GPT.
Yeah. And again, it's one thing after another.
Yeah.
It's dead. It's dead. I don't carry a cell phone, by the way. I have an old flip phone that I carry in my car if I remember it. And when I travel, I take it with me. I did work for the cellular telecommunications industry back in 1994 when they had boxes in the trunks of cars with aerials.
I remember.
I've been studying radio frequency radiation and the dangers of being on cell phones for all of those years. Wow. I don't have Wi-Fi in my place. I know about 5G. The people could care less. They're addicted to them. They become, again, talking about young children not having to do it. When I was a guy, we used to wanted to go someplace, you pulled out a map. Now you just ask Siri. You think you're going the right way and everything? No, you're not. But they'll tell you you are. I could show you a quicker direction if we look at that map and we go this way. But people have lost their minds. And the robots are taking over in so many different jobs. And the bigs, we just had the Davos meeting over there. And what are they concerned about? They said it, a slowdown in globalization. So the bigs can't get bigger. When I was a young guy, they had grocery stores, drug stores, stationery stores, hardware stores. Gone. Now the hardware chains, drug chains.
Big business. Big business, chains, big business, not small business.
Gone.
Middle class disappearing.
Gone. This is better than the plantation system, because in the plantation days with the slave owners, you had to house and feed them. Now they give you just enough money. Here, get out of here now. Come back later. Come on, get out of here. Come back later. The numbers, I mean, a new study just came out. Dollar General. I don't know if you have those over there. They're dollar stores.
We did.
People are buying more food and going to there than just about it. They're building like crazy. So now they're eating crap food. You look at what's going on in this country and all over the world, what the people are turning into. This is serious stuff. And again, if we don't reverse it, and we can, that's the other thing. I mean, I followed what went on in Australia, as you know, in the Trends Journal, when the COVID war was on. What a joke. All the people they were locking up, throwing people down on the ground. Arrogant little
terrible.
Stupid. Yep.
Yeah.
I used to call that woman, I forgot her name, Gladys.
Berejiklian.
Yeah, I call it Gladys been jerking off. That's what I used to call her. Arrogant little nothing. Oh, and then she put out for the guy, right? Yeah, and that's why she quit. Yeah, getting screwed by somebody as they're screwing us. These are the morons and little imbeciles that people bow down to. Little Boris Johnson over there in the UK. My great artist, Anthony Frieda, that does the cover of the Trends Journal. If I asked him to come up with a freakier clown than that, couldn't do it. And where's Boris Johnson? Just got back from Ukraine. We got to send more weapons. We need more weapons. We need more weapons.
How did we get, there's two things I picked up from that. One, you said we can reverse it. I'm really keen to hear about that. But my question to you as well is, how did we allow governments to have so much overreach? And I think you've said this before, Gerald, is politicians never took a pay cut during COVID when everybody else was in trouble, and they don't work. They're taking money from taxes. I want to know, how did smart people allow governments to have such overreach?
You know, I'll tell you how. And it's been going on for a long time. It's been going on for centuries. But here's the way I see it now. By the way, I hated every day of school. I ran away from kindergarten at 4.5 years old, and I crossed the Boston Post Road in the Bronx, which was the major road between Boston and New York before they built the highways. They took me out because I'd be dead. And now they'd have me shot up with drugs. Anyway, I hated every day. I got left back in the 5th grade, barely got out of high school. Only went to college to beat the draft, the Vietnam War. And by the way, at that age, I was stupid enough to believe the crap that if we don't stop the Vietnamese communists, the dominoes are going to keep falling. And they're saying the same exact thing now with Russia and Ukraine. A border dispute that's been going on for over 300 years. If we don't stop it, the dominoes are going to keep falling. So anyway, how do we let it happen? The principals of school, they were in charge of everything. And the teachers tell you what to do. The principals are our politicians, and the teachers are the bureaucrats. Look at those little arrogant boys and girls that play health minister. Weren't they wonderful? Look at those little clowns of nothing. Those little boys and girls of nothing. We're still in high school. People haven't graduated.
Because they're not being taught how to do critical thinking. They're not taught how to ask questions. They just accept the narrative.
And if you don't, you'll fail the test.
Correct. And it's just about the mark you get from saying the right answer, the answer they want you to hear. As an aside, I'm not going to mention the name, but somebody who has critical thinking, I actually asked him to come and talk at a school my son went to, and they said, we're not interested. This person has an incredible amount of knowledge in geology and how the world works and climate change. Don't talk climate change, because that's a narrative that's going to take a lot of money away from people. There's a lot of things going on, Gerald, but you said a moment ago as well, we can reverse it. We're going into sort of doom and gloom, but what do you see that we can do to...
We need to do... People have to unite to get new political parties. End of story. They're a crime syndicate that's running the show. They're murderers and thieves. By their deeds you shall know them. Hey, I'm a bank. I'm too big to fail. In America, they only pump $29 trillion into the banking system, according to Levy Institute of Bard College, between 2007 and 2010. I want that guy Assad out of there. I want that guy Gaddafi out of there. They're murderers and thieves.
Yeah.
And again, you know, I'm pushing for peace. I had a big rally, by the way, this past
loved it.
July.
Yeah.
And I had top names: Judge Andrew Napolitano, Scott Ritter, Gary Null, Phil Giraldi. Phil Giraldi was a top CIA guy that goes into George Bush's office and said, listen, Mr. President, Here's the facts. Here's the data. There are no weapons of mass destruction in Iraq. And Bush told Phil Giraldi, leave the office. Giraldi left the office, and he also left the CIA. He quit. He's a real man. I had streets were packed. We sent out over 3,000 press releases. Over the course of 3 weeks, 0 coverage apiece.
Oh,
0.
wow.
Broke my heart. If I had a rally to support Ukraine, they would have covered it. They would have covered it great. There are more Ukrainian flags flying around New York than American flags. Anybody, they have no idea of, they're taking down a statue of Catherine the Great over there in Ukraine because of what she did with Odessa. And when did Catherine the Great, 1750s? You mean this has been going on this long and you want me to get involved in this? It's all about the military-industrial complex.
Right.
America just passed a budget of $1.7 trillion. Oh, by the way, we're $31 trillion in debt.
Mm-hmm.
Over half of it, went to the military, industrial, intelligence complex.
Over half of that $31 trillion worth of debt.
No, 1.7 trillion.
1.7, still a big number.
Yeah. The military industrial complex got half, and they won't give us the numbers that go to the CIA, the FBI, the NSA, and the Homeland. They won't give us those numbers. So the number is well over. The official number for just the military industrial complex is $858 billion. Again, it's half right there. And when you put the rest in, it's way over half.
You said that the only way to turn this around is to get rid of the current government and the people that are working in it. But don't you think that the majority of people, they've been too comfortable for too long, and they're like, you know what, the government looks after me. You know, if I lose my job, I get a handout. If something wrong happens, they'll always look after me. Do you think they're too lazy to do anything about it and they just don't see this coming?
Yes, they are. But it does not take a majority to prevail, but rather an irate, tireless minority, keen on setting brush fires of freedom in the minds of men, said Samuel Adams, one of the founding fathers of America. When the Revolutionary War started over here, less than 5% of the people were for it. At the height, under 50. And I'm in Kingston, New York, where the seeds of democracy was sown. This was the first capital of New York State before the British burnt it down. The Constitution that was written here, there are more pre-Revolutionary War stone buildings here than anywhere in America. The Constitution that was written here, over 70% of America's Constitution comes from that, when Kingston was the capital of New York State. I own 3 of the most historic buildings in America. It's the only 4 corners in America with pre-Revolutionary War stone buildings. And I bought them because of what they represent.
Wonderful.
What the spirit of this country once had. As I say, I'm a Napolitano, born in the Bronx, born to be free. If I was born in Alta Villa Pina, Vica Quentin, in Italy, I wouldn't be me. I'd be like those people over there that lost all their fight and all their spirit. This was the country of land of opportunity. It's gone. It's gone. So the people have to unite. If, again, they did it before, we could do it again. And by the way, without going through all of my background, at a graduate school, I started working on political campaigns in Westchester County, which was the richest county in America. They sent me up to Albany because they were grooming me. I was doing such a great job. And I was the assistant to the secretary of the New York State Senate. This is the guy that runs the whole show.
Yeah.
I quit after 1 year. It wasn't my style to watch grown men grovel to suck their way up to the top. You hire a clown, some slob, opening the door. Senator Frank Smith, Senator Tom McNeil. I say to the guys, hey, man, what's the matter? Cat can't open the door by himself. What is this?
Good on you.
And they say, Gerald, you have that kind of an attitude. You're not going to make it. This isn't for me. They couldn't believe I quit after 1 year. My good dear friend, may he rest in peace, Brian Donahue, his wife, became the lieutenant governor under Pataki, one of the governors. And then I went on to teach American politics and campaign technology. And I taught how to run political campaigns at St. John's University. To tell you just a little bit of my background being on the other side, I was working as a number 2 guy of a major trade association, killing environmental legislation at the height of the environmental movement. I was a young guy. All I wanted to do was make money and have a good time. I'm staying at the Willard Hotel in D.C. at 28 and putting my meetings on to Hay Adams. I have a photograph of me and Ronald Reagan when I picked him up at the Chicago Hilton in 1976. I'm 30 years old, 2 days before he's announcing he's running for president against Jerry Ford. I've been with presidents, prime ministers, and princes. I've been on the other side. I know what the deal is.
Yeah.
So to make it clear, I'm a fighter. I used to have my own school. I taught close combat for many years.
Ah.
You call these guys out man to man, boom, they fold like that. If you say, don't you give me that crap. Oh, don't talk to me like that. I'll F you up, man. I had enough of your shit. But don't talk to me like that. Oh, please. Oh, did you hear what he said to me? That's who they are. They're gutless little clowns. They're gutless little nobodies. They don't know how to fight. Yeah. All they know how to do is tell you what to do. They're the principals of your school.
And they've got you exactly where they want you. And I love your passion, Gerald, but you have said that you're on the other side. You said you did a freedom rally, but the press...
I learned. I learned from being... That's why I know what I know. I wouldn't know what I know if I wasn't on the other side.
Exactly.
And then grow up. I was a young guy. You don't start growing up. I didn't start growing up until a lot of years later. It's a learning process. When I was a kid, my father, may he rest in peace, eating dinner, we get a fight, and he said, "You little bastard," he said, "you think I'm telling you what I'm telling you because I want you to be like me? I want you to become yourself."
Yeah.
And when I repeat everything that everybody else is saying and say to me in Italian, "Papagallo, stop repeating what everybody else is saying and think for yourself." So it's a learning process. It's a learning process. And that's
Gerald,
what the people have to do.
Sorry to interrupt you, but we've stopped learning how to think independently, and we think what's told to us on the idiot box, which is called a television.
You forget about them. They'll follow. You forget about them. You have to unite those who honor life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness.
Okay.
That's the ones that have to unite. You forget the other ones. They don't count. They'll go anywhere they want to. Here, come over here. Come over here. Here, come over here. They'll do whatever they're told. They don't count.
Gerald, I want to know, the Trends Journal is independent media. I want to know what you saw, why you set this up. Is it because that you saw a lot of media out there that weren't independent? What was your...
I'll tell you exactly. No, I'll tell you what happened. I used to do major talks all over the world. De Beers going to South Africa. I mean, you look at the people name it, Amex, getting top dollar. And I had a young guy working for me, actually, he was a student, intern, and back in 1991. And he said to me, you should really write a magazine. And I said, he said, nobody's talking about trends. It started out in 1991 as an 8-page newsletter that came out quarterly. Then it went to a major magazine quarterly, and now it went to a monthly, and then it went to a weekly. I've never worked harder in my life because I'm so concerned about what's going on. And the team that I have is dedicated as well. And again, we have no advertisers.
No.
It's only subscription based, and it's not a lot of money. It's like less than $3 a week.
Yeah.
And we're doing it so that we can help those who want to help themselves.
And speaking of helping those that want to help themselves, and by the way, as I said at the beginning, ladies and gentlemen, trendsjournal.com, you can hit subscribe. And as Gerald just said, it's less than $3 a day. But what I love about trendsjournal.com, or the Trends Journal itself, is it's independent thought. It challenges you to think instead of sitting passively. It actually encourages you to go out to think. And we have to make a better world, not just for us, but for our children and our grandchildren and future generations. So, Gerald, I really appreciate what you're doing. And it's one of the very few truly independent, non-advertising journals out there. So please, ladies and gentlemen, go do that. That's me doing a little bit of a plug because I love what he's doing. However, I want to go into some of the things that Gerald Celente is looking at the moment. Everybody knows I love gold, love silver, and I know that you recently called a bottom in gold of, I think you said 1,800. You're going to call the bottom, and you're saying
no. We said the bottom was when it hit in the 1600s.
Okay,
that was the bottom.
And so what I want to know is the audience we're talking to today, the small caps audience, a lot of investors out there that are getting a little bit concerned about what's going on, not just with Russia, Ukraine, and the rest of the world, but markets a little bit wobbly. Next week in the US, you've got the interest rates be at 25 base. So I want to give you to give us a view. First of all, what are the areas that you think people should be looking at?
Well, Canada just raised their interest rates, central bank, 25 basis points.
Mm-hmm.
I guess on the streets, they're only going to raise it 25 basis points.
Okay.
If they raise it 25 basis points, we're forecasting gold is going to skyrocket way above $2,000 an ounce. Because that means they're putting more cheap money in there. They want to keep it going. If they raise it 50 basis points, gold prices are going to go down. And so are the markets. And so is the global economy. So if they raise them 50 basis points, gold's going to go down, but only for a short time. Because it's going to be an economic disaster. They're money junkies. They need their monetary method down. The market should have crashed when the COVID war happened.
Mm-hmm.
But governments pumped in all of this fake money. They brought interest rates to zero and negative. They were negative. They've been negative in Europe, since for 9 years. And it kept them down there as inflation's going up, and they're saying it's only temporary and transitory.
Transitory.
And now transgendatory in the woke world. We got to be proper here.
Stop it.
So that's the deal. And by the way, that's how I began my career. When I quit in Washington is when the Iranian crisis was breaking out, and people were taught to hate the Iranians without knowing about the overthrow of Mossadegh in 1953 by the CIA and the MI6 because he nationalized the oil, and British Petroleum, back then known as Anglo-Iranian Oil, and Standard Oil, better known today as ExxonMobil. They said, no, you guys don't own it. We do, the Iranians. And the CIA and the MI6 overthrew Mossadegh, brought in the Shah, the Savak, the secret police. So anyway, as the revolution was happening, I knew it was real. And I said, this is how I became a trend forecaster. As people were just caught up in hating Iran and not knowing any of the facts, like what's going on in Russia, Ukraine, I said, what's going to happen to gold? And my first buy of gold was $186 and change an ounce. I started playing the oil and gold futures. People weren't playing them back then. And I put a $5,000 bet. I turned it into almost $750,000. And that's when I quit my job. And then I moved I was living in Chicago and DC, moved up to a place called Rhinebeck, New York, which is north of New York City. Now it's the Hamptons of the North. It was all filled with artists when I moved up there. But anyway, I was a recluse for about 4 years. As I started learning about the future, it started freaking me out. And we were growing our own food, raising, animal, chickens and stuff. And we hardly went out. I was married at the time. And so I started learning that's when I became a political atheist.
Right.
I started learning. I look at things the way they are, not the way I want them to be. And very important, opportunity misses those who view the world through the eyes of their profession. You have to look beyond what you're doing and look at what's going on, socioeconomic, geopolitical, every different angle in every different way. As you see in the Trends Journal, all the different areas that we cover. And so that's very important. And finally, I'd like to say, you ask what could be done. Everyone listening, please do all you can to get in the best shape you can.
Yeah.
Physically, emotionally, and spiritually. And if enough of us do that, we win, because they're not. And we could outnumber them very easily. And again, I want a peaceful, not a war-like, but peaceful. Here, how did the Berlin Wall come down?
Brick by brick. Peacefully.
People went there day after day, night after night, week after week. More and more people came, they didn't leave. More and more people came, they didn't leave. More and more people came, they didn't leave. More and more people came, they didn't leave, until they outnumbered them by a big number. And that's how it came down. You don't go out in the street one day, yell, scream, and then and go back home. It has to continue. The facts are there. And again, look what's going on not far from you, New Zealand. By the way, New Zealand brought me over in the mid-2000s, I think about 2006, 2008. And I did work for the government there on how they could increase their trade. I was there for over 2 weeks, from Auckland down to, was it Queensland or something? Queenstown, yeah. And, and now you look at the clown show over there. Minnie Mouse quit and Donald Duck just took her place. I mean, look at this little clowns. Look at these little clowns.
I know. But they're accepted and no one puts up a fight and everyone says, well, that's just the way it is.
Again, and that's what I'm saying. We have to, if we want to survive on a higher level, we have to fight for freedom, peace, and justice.
Gerald
Thank you
Celente,
very much for having me on.
I really appreciate your time on Small Caps. Please come back and talk to us again, because we didn't really get into all the other things. But as Gerald just said, he's a peaceful man, but you really got to stand up and fight for what you believe in. But Gerald, come back and have a chat to us again about maybe gold, silver, oil, and some of the things.
Well, again, gold to me is gold. It's gold, silver, and Bitcoin. Those are my three. And to me, gold is the number one. And silver, if silver takes off, it'll skyrocket. But again, it's all going to depend on the interest rates. But look where gold is now. And so gold sees where's it going. Oh, and by the way, you don't have to believe me. Ask the central banks. They just had a banner year last year buying it up. They know how bad it is out there. This is just fake money. And again, I know you want to talk about digital currency. They're going to go, they're all going to go digital, so they know every penny we spent, where we spent it, what we spent it on, because
Absolutely.
The politicians don't work and they want our tax money. And when they go digital, gold will even go higher, because it's going to be that one asset that's been around forever and ever, and it's going to have a lot more gold to it in terms of what it is worth compared to digitally nothing.
You just, before you go, you mentioned Bitcoin. If central bank digital currencies come in, won't the governments just turn around and ban Bitcoin, as I believe they've done in China?
Oh, they have done it in China. And we say that when they go digital, these coins go, they're going to go way down, because they're not going to want any competition.
Yeah. But you still like Bitcoin at the moment? You think
at the moment I do, yeah.
Okay. So there you have it, ladies and gentlemen. Gerald, he likes the silver, the Bitcoin, but be careful when central bank digital currencies and all that, I guess, control comes in. But gold is its own master. Gerald Celente from the Trends Journal, thank you so much for joining me on Small Caps today.
And thank you.